everyone. I'm Adrian, Philip, and Jay. We're from Audio Excellence Canada. Hope you're doing well. This is, I guess, will be technically our second video now that Ontario's open again. The first one is a public service announcement, which Jay will edit and upload hopefully today. Anyway, it's really good to see all of you. Well, at least virtually seeing all of you. I hope all of you came through the virus shutdown well, and your family is doing fine. We thought today that we would do a topic about Qobuz versus Tidal. So I'll give you the backstory real quick. When Qobuz was first available in North America, David Solomon, who was previously with Tidal, had taken over at Qobuz, and he was trying to set us up with an account. Problem is that in Canada, we're not yet officially able to receive Qobuz, and I'm not sure why. So a year passed, and there was a reason for me to reach out to David again, and David was able to somehow set us up with Qobuz. So we want to talk today about the differences that we hear between these two wonderful streaming services. And if you are able to receive Qobuz, you may want to check it out. So who wants to start? Jay?
Jay, it's your turn.
Rock, paper, scissors. No, that's too late.
Okay, you go.
Oh, God. Well, to be fair, I didn't have extensive time with Qobuz compared to Tidal because I use a lot more Tidal. So I don't like change. So every time I try something new, it has to be like above and beyond.
What about that haircut of yours?
Well, my girlfriend got it for me, so I have to like it.
Oh,
Right?
good.
So there's a difference between...
You know, I was just thinking, your haircut reminds me of, I'm trying to remember where I saw it, but there's this cartoon of a heart with hands coming out, and it's a weird-looking, freaky heart. It's not like a loving heart kind of thing. It's like a weird-looking, almost a monster heart.
I don't know what he's saying.
But your center part, your center part here. Yeah,
I'll find if I can find a photo like that. But yeah, that's the difference between you have to and
It's true.
you get to choose. But anyways, so I used Tidal for quite a long time, and I like Tidal, and for me to go to another streaming service, it would have to be above and beyond, and I think there is a pretty obvious difference between Qobuz and Tidal. Which one sounds better? I think that depends on the track. Depends on what kind of track you're listening to, and what kind of cut you're listening to. So that largely depends. If you're asking the question, which one sounds better? I think that largely depends on which track you're listening to, and in terms of like the friendliness of the interface and stuff like that. As for me, like I said, I don't like change, so I prefer Tidal. And if you ask me personally, are you gonna change to Qobuz? Not anytime soon. I personally prefer to keep on using Tidal, and I think Tidal is a bit cheaper, correct?
I don't know.
A little bit.
A little bit. Okay, so that also plays into a factor for me because I'm cheap. But a little bit counts. But anyways, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, how about you?
Well, we use Roon, so
Yeah.
the interface is that's a non-starter for a question. I've installed Qobuz at home on the app. I don't really use the app. I find that the programming is a little bit less easy than it is with Tidal in order to make playlists with my cursory kind of like exploration of it. But sonically, the two are quite different. And the surprising thing is that I've read various different, assessments of both services, and I've not heard or I've not read reviewers pointing this out. I'm very surprised because it's totally apparent right from the get-go that they do sound different. The presentations are different, and I believe your assessment is pretty valid. You know, it's sort of going to be depending on the track, but so this is what I heard, okay? And I heard it consistently, regardless of resolution and regardless of whether or not we had updated the Inuit server or, so before and after, it sounded exactly the same. So with Tidal, there was more ambience. It was the focus was different in terms of the spatial alignment of all the sounds. It was more ethereal, and it's kind of like a little bit more with a gossamer kind of sheen to it. And with Qobuz, it seemed more solid and more in the center, and definitely focus kind of tonality wise a little bit lower, so that everything had a solidity to it. So you might like that with some tracks. So I found that it really, like you said, it depends on the track, kind of. Personally, I think in the overall grand scheme of things, I kind of like Tidal a little bit more just because it seemed to be out of the speaker a bit more. And with Qobuz, it was more centered into the room. So I have to listen to a bit more. They're both extremely good. And they both, of course, are, they're influenced by how you have your digital setup. So that makes a big difference as well. But certainly given that we didn't change a single thing and the two presentations were at opposite ends, I find that quite interesting.
Yeah, and also I think that, at least with Tidal and Qobuz, right, they both sound great. It's just a matter of preference, and at least for me, it's not about, which one sounds better, because they equally sound better, just a little bit different.
Just a little bit different. There's so much correlate, both services have more or less the same libraries. They're very close.
Yeah. Whereas, I remember going from Spotify to, I still do have Spotify, but...
Well, that's MP3, baby.
I know. But the reason I have Spotify is because sometimes there's, music that I want to listen to that's not on Tidal.
Well, that's Adrian's thing, right? He listens to Spotify because, and he'll tell you this, because there's so much to explore.
They have a great algorithm. They have a huge library. I love Spotify to discover new songs. You type in an album or a group that you like, and you get all these different suggestions about what's similar, and then you go over to Tidal and look for it and see if they've got it. If they do, then you put it on your playlist. So that's my little strategy.
So that's how you do it.
Yeah, but also I get Shazam, right? This is a great app, one of the best apps ever. So I'll be watching TV, and a soundtrack will come on, and that's not, like, for example, HBO has for the last 3 or 4 nights been playing. My mind just went blank. Entourage all over again, and they have some great music. So last night, the music that ended that particular episode playing, and I'm going, I know this song. What the hell is it? And senior moment, can't remember, but I know the song, and I know the group, I know the singer, and I immediately grabbed my phone and Shazammed it, and it's, oh, that's what it was, and it's AC/DC. So it's Shazam is wonderful. So what I'll do is I'll go through my Shazam history, and then I'll go over to Tidal and I'll just start entering all the songs I want to enter, and it becomes part of my playlist to discover again. So I really like that. But you guys didn't talk about with Roon. One of the great things about Roon is that it aggregates all the music that you like or have chosen. So let's say you choose AC/DC and you choose a particular song. It will show you what you have on Tidal and what you have on Qobuz, and the different rates, right? The different resolutions.
Well, yeah. I mean, so when you select the song in Roon, it will have at the very... So there's a taskbar, and on the very left-hand side of it, there'll be a little symbol that says version. And so when you click on that, it'll show you all the different resolutions available in each of the streaming services. So it's very easy to switch back and forth.
Roon is great that way. So this way you can actually compare the different resolutions and hear for yourself if there's an audible difference. And if there is an audible difference, is it better or worse, or you don't particularly care?
So, Adrian, you have the final word. What did you hear?
In many ways, I agree with both of them. Philip went into some detail about the sonic differences between Tidal and Qobuz. My takeaway is that I, for the most part, prefer Qobuz at this point, and I've only gone through maybe about 7 or 8 songs ever since the shutdown was lifted. We've been actually pretty busy at the store, getting everything back to normal, looking after clients and shipping and so on. So I haven't had a chance to listen to as much as I'd like to, but so far in every case, Qobuz equivalent rates of resolution seems to have a denser, richer sound. As Villa pointed out, not quite as open, not quite as airy, not quite as ethereal as Tidal. But in some cases, the equivalent from Tidal can sound a little bit grainy and spitty to me, whereas with the Qobuz, I don't find that. Now, again, it's probably
Qobuz is definitely smoother.
Yeah, it could be age. You get older. The old thing, you become your parents and turn the volume down. How come everything is so bright? It could certainly be that. Jay is laughing. Well, the weird thing is, and this is a tangent. In my mind, I still think I'm in my 20s, right? It just, I don't know why. I don't know if the older viewers among you can relate. In the back of my mind, I still think I'm in my 20s, but every so often something happens and you go, oh my God, when did I get old? You have lapses of memory on a constant basis. You can't remember words. Like the other day, not that long ago, I was trying to send an email to a client and I had to spell the word cough. And I couldn't spell the word cough. I was sitting there thinking cough. I was sounding it out.
That's a bad thing because it always ends up being something different.
K-O-F-F. And you know how we spell based around the way you picture words, right? So cough, that doesn't look right. K-O-F-F. Okay, not K-O-F-F. C-O-F-F. And I swear I was so distraught and so upset with myself that I couldn't spell the word cough. I forget words where I'm reaching for a description and I can't. Anyway, you don't need to know that. Point is, it could well be that as you get older, and certain sounds bother you more than others. But generally speaking, I love what I hear out of Qobuz. And by the way, how the hell do you pronounce that? Is it Qobuz, Qobuz, Qobuz?
Qobuz.
Right? Anyway, so see, getting old, you get upset at stupid things like this. But I love the fact that we have both. I love the fact that there are some songs available on Tidal that's not on Qobuz and vice versa. I love the fact that I can buy music from Qobuz, whereas with Tidal I can't. And by the way, client and a friend Jason recommends a really great app, which we still haven't downloaded, which I have to. It's called SongShift. So if you've got music from different music services like Spotify and so on, and you've created different playlists, apparently if you download SongShift, you can now shift all of your playlists from one service to another or whatever it is and consolidate so that, God forbid, one day you wake up and one of these streaming services no longer exists, you still have your playlists somewhere. And so we got to do that, download that and consolidate everything from one to the other.
Well, our many clients are always asking us for playlists, which we can't really give to them.
I don't know if we can. We can try and look and see if we can share.
So will this create a text file that you can then...
I don't know. I think Tidal, there is a way to share. I just don't know how.
I've read the instructions and it's...
Not easy?
It's not easy.
Speaking of that, by the way, a little hint. If you aren't following Wilson Audio, you should on Twitter. I think they have shared Peter McGrath's 4 album recommendations, 4 lists of recommended albums lists, you may want to go on Twitter and follow Wilson Audio.
How did they get Peter to do that?
I don't know, but
I
Peter
asked
has
him the last time I saw him. I asked him for like.
Peter has great taste in music, and his song selection or album selection in terms of quality is always amazing. So you definitely want to check that out. Yeah, but anyway, so I think I wouldn't want to go without either now that I've had experience with both. And I really look forward to spending more time with Qobuz and discovering more. One great thing about Tidal, of course, is MQA. So if you really like MQA, you pretty much will want to be with Tidal and explore it. Of course, there's more and more album available on with MQA. Speaking of MQA, you guys want to weigh in on MQA and give your thoughts about MQA?
Well, before I talk about MQA, I think I want to talk about the fact that it's great to have competition, because I remember that when Tidal came along, right? Spotify for the longest time didn't have a premium version, but they came up with a premium version.
So what do you get in the premium version? Is it still
No,
lossy?
No ads.
It's like I think at the time like 16-bit or something like that, but it was high res, okay? And so the funny thing was that it came out, and so my friend at the university was telling me, why do you use Tidal? I said, well, Spotify is low quality, and he was like, well, there's Spotify Premium. And so I looked into it. I'm just like, oh, that looks interesting. So
yeah, but what's the actual bit rate? And
it's like 16-bit something, but that's not the important point. Of course, Tidal sounds better, but it sounded better. And through testing, I found that out. But the funny thing was that I immediately downloaded Spotify again, because I had all my playlists there. Right?
Yeah.
You have to understand that I had so many music on Spotify, and I went for Tidal. I had to rebuild the entire playlist. So I went back to my account, and my playlist was still there. And I ran it on my phone. And my phone at the time had 100% battery, okay? I ran premium Spotify. And it was in the summer. But my phone, in my pocket, my phone would get
hot?
really, really hot. So I take it out, and I'm talking about like really, really hot, like afraid it's going to burst or something. And I'm thinking, what's going on with my phone? Like, I didn't understand that it was the fact that I was running premium Spotify. And it just ran out of the battery like within 30 minutes.
Wow. How long ago was this?
This was 4 something years ago.
Yeah.
But that was an interesting experience, because Spotify came out with something in response to Tidal being higher.
But now it's been 4 years, and
yeah, well, but
what else have they done?
I don't know. But I'm saying,
Would any
all I'm saying is I'm not saying Spotify is the bomb.
We're not trying to diss it. I am, but
No.
you aren't.
What I'm saying is that I think it's good to have competition, because then people strive to be have a better capability of sound.
I have stations I've created on Spotify, and it's really cool. You click on all the different kinds of songs and albums and artists that you like, and they'll create playlists for you. It's great. I'll get to the store in the morning. I'll click on Spotify and on my computer, and I'll listen to it in the background and discover all this new music I'm listening to. It's wonderful. I love their algorithm and their curation.
But interestingly, how people do this like A/B test with Spotify and Tidal, and some people don't hear a difference and stuff like that. Interestingly enough, I think it was my friend. My friend, he for the longest time refused to get into Tidal, right? So I said one day, oh, and then I believe Tidal had this one plan where it said like for $3 extra you can add a family member or something during the holiday or something like that. So I told him about it, and I said, try it. And so this guy, but he just upgraded his speakers. Okay, he just upgraded his speakers from something like absolutely, to my standard, not that good, to something reasonably good. And so funny thing is, after upgrading his system, he plays Spotify versus Tidal, right? And he did this before he upgraded, and he tells me I don't hear a difference. After he upgrades his system, he hears it side by side, and he goes like, "Oh my god," right? So I found that to be interesting, and I find it interesting because I found similar things. Like when I was listening to $300, $200 headphones, right? I didn't notice that much of a difference. But I come to Audio Excellence and I hear it in the title, right? Then I hear a difference between the different
Doesn't
resolutions.
Tidal still offer the 30-day trial, or they
Well,
don't
yeah,
have
there's a trial.
I think there's a trial,
What they
yeah.
don't have is they used to have a lower bit rate kind of thing, but they don't do that anymore.
I don't know.
It's
I know in
gone.
the early days, the trial, every 10 seconds or 20 seconds, they'll burp. So I was like,
totally
why
useless.
bother? It was crazy.
So that's interesting because we always tell people about, if you don't have enough resolution in your system, and we're not talking about it has to be, stellar, state of the art, but just have to have enough resolution to go above mid-fi. It's very hard to tell the difference between things.
I mean, the funny thing is that it obviously varies from person to person, but my girlfriend, she was listening to it with some earbud. I have no idea what it is, and I told her, try Tidal, right, and try Spotify, and she did, and she says, and then I get her one of my headphones. I think it was the Maze headphones, and she tries it on. She liked the look because it looks nice, and then she tries it on and she tries it with it. And then she's like, wait, what? And she goes back and forth and she goes like, wait, what? Same tracks. And she goes back and forth for like 20 minutes. And she goes like, that is so weird. Why is there a difference? And I didn't tell her that there's a difference. I just told her, go back and forth. Tell me, what you hear. And she was like looking at me like, what are you talking about? It's the same song. What do you want me to say? Like, but then she said, there's a difference. I'm like, what's the difference? And she's like, I don't know how to describe it, but there's a difference. So I found that to be
but
interesting.
does she make a qualitative statement about whether she liked one over the other, or?
She said that she likes Tidal better, but she doesn't know why, right?
That's fine.
She's not an audiophile. So she, I found that interesting because, Meze headphones are what, like
$300?
something like that,
Very
right?
inexpensive.
Yeah.
I love them though.
With
I think
phone.
they're great.
With phone.
Yeah.
Now, I tried it, right? I hear a small difference, but she seemed to hear much of a bigger difference. And she was like mind blown. She was like, what?
Well, she used to like, really inexpensive earbuds.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
Yeah. So maybe that's why I'm desensitized.
We should talk about MQA before we run
Right.
out of memory.
All right.
All right. So what do you guys think about MQA now that it's been out for quite a while and there's a lot of titles available
I apologize.
on Tidal? What do you guys think?
It's a totally legitimate gimmick. That's the way I see it.
Gimmick? Okay.
Well, because there's so many other variables that go into the equation that are not all controlled by the actual process of converting a file from the original source, whether it be digital or analog, to the final, version in MQA. I mean, I talked to Peter McGrath extensively about this the last time I had a chance to, sit down with him. And the way he explained it, the biggest difference that MQA can make is in time domain. That's one of the big things that it fixes. It actually fixes certain files in a certain particular way. But if the file is originally multi-track with tons of little snippets put together, which is a way of modern music is put together, time domain cannot be fixed because it's all over the place. So, but I certainly have heard MQA be so effective with certain recordings that were recorded simply, and time domain was maybe wrong, but it was simple enough that you could fix it in one fell swoop. So it makes a tremendous difference. But for most music, I don't really hear, any real benefit. The nice thing about MQA, the biggest thing is that it keeps the file sizes small. So, if you're streaming to your phone, or if you have more limited, the amount of information you can get out of the internet is more capped. If you don't have an unlimited plan, or if you have a small plan, then yeah, it's beneficial for sure. But from a sound quality wise, we tell people this in the store. I mean, I do. We don't pay attention to it. If a good file is good, it's going to be good regardless of whether it's MQA or not. It doesn't make a bad file better, in other words.
Jay?
I largely agree, but
Well, what do you see as different?
well, I don't think there's anything different. Like to my experience, I hear no difference, or very little difference. But I do think that there are people that swear by it, and they may be hearing something that we're missing. I don't know. But the thing is that there's so many the one thing that I don't like is that there's so many hoops that you have to go through to get MQA.
Explain.
Like I-Fi DAC. You have to have the right settings, you have to have an MQA
Oh.
DAC. You have to make sure that your MQA DAC is like MQA DAC, whatever that means. But it's like, oh, this is an MQA DAC. Oh, sorry. This is an MQA DAC. Oh no, it has to be an MQA DAC. Like
that's i-Fi. I mean, we're particularly acquainted with it because we sell the product, and
well, but
we know
not just i-Fi, but like other things too, like MyTech or whatever it is. Like I just think it's just too much trouble to go through that, and when I hear it, I can't justify the hoops I'm going through to get it. I mean, if for me, if it was that every DAC had MQA, right, and it was like largely like popular thing, and you can get it, it's a choice, you can get it really easily, and get it to working playing MQA perfectly, then no problem. I mean, why not? Even if it's a small difference, why not? But then you have to run through so many hoops to get it, and the difference is minimal if there's any. So that's just my biggest caveat and why I personally don't use MQA.
So you don't particularly care for it. I'll give you the backstory. When MQA was first announced, it was a few years ago, and the Toronto audio show back then was called, what was it called back then?
Toronto Tapes.
Toronto Audio Video
Yeah.
Entertainment show, whatever. And so one of the very first DACs that had MQA decoding was the MyTech Manhattan. So we ordered one in, and we thought, well, we'll just bring it to the show and have a headphone booth so people could hear it. And this was how new it was. Back then, there were literally no titles except 2L, which is an album.
They're from Norway or
that's
something
right,
like that.
yeah. Had some test tracks that you could download and play back, and they had the non-MQA, MQA, and then higher resolution ones. So I downloaded everything, brought it to the show, and let people hear for themselves. And some people heard some differences, some people heard marginal differences, others didn't hear much at all. And personally, I didn't hear much at all. And then, of course, later on, Tidal had more MQA, and during that period of time, I would periodically listen, and I must say, in general, I didn't particularly care. It was, if there were differences, they were marginal and didn't make much of a difference for me. And then, fast forward about 2 years ago, Peter McGrath came to the Toronto audio show, and now it was a whole different show. And we were exhibiting with the Wilson events, and Peter said, I got to play you the latest MQA. I've sent my own files over to Bob Stewart, and he has MQA'd them and sent them back to me. So I've got the before and after, and we can hear it for ourselves. I want you to hear it, see what you think. And he played it for me. And in that setup, it was very substantial. And that was the only time that it was substantial, because then I would come back to the store and play certain MQA titles. And as Philip pointed out, in a lot of cases, not a big difference for me. And of course, I think the three of us are going to lose our audiophile credibilities now, because there'll be people among you looking and going, these three idiots, they have no ears. What the hell are they talking about? So for me, I'm glad I have it. I want that option. But it's not a life changer for me. As far as I'm concerned, as long as I've got the music, I'm okay. Whether or not it MQAs or not that big a deal.
But we know distinctly that they remaster when they change resolutions. In other words, it's not just a simple upsampling. There's remastering going on. So there are files out there that would be that red book, and then they've remastered it for something like 2444, and they might actually go up to 2496 or 24192, and then there's MQA on top of that. So the real question is, if you're listening to a 24192 file that's been MQ'd on Tidal, you can't get a 24192 file that is not MQA. So how do you compare the two? And then when you compare, 24192 MQA in Tidal versus 24192 WAV files in Qobuz, because the two platforms sound different, it's not apples to apples, oranges to oranges.
Yeah, it'd be interesting more so to find out why the same song, if it's the same album from the same master, why would it sound different on Qobuz versus Tidal?
Well, I'm pretty sure it's the algorithms they use when they encode for streaming. So there's all sorts of manipulations going on. And then Roon itself, the way we listen to it, actually also changes it, in a little bit.
All I know is, for me, as I said, MQA, take it or leave it. I have it. We're glad we have it. And if I remember, I will turn on MQA, and if not, I won't.
Oh, yeah.
Some of our DACs automatically do it, and if you choose the right song, it'll decode it. But I never remember necessarily to go out of my way to look for MQA titles. But now with Qobuz and with Roon, you can select, which is very cool.
So
I like that feature.
the thing that happens with MQA is that if you don't have MQA up and running, the file is still 24 bits, but not at whatever the final resolution is. So non-MQA decoded files are 2444, 2448. That's how it keeps it small, and the unfold increases resolution.
And this is where I say, even though I'm young, this is also confusing, and I would rather spin vinyl.
Well, I think that's it. We've gone way past what we should be doing. And
long live vinyl.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm Adrian, Philip, and Jay. We're from Audio Excellence Canada. We're glad we're back. If you've got any questions, feel free to put them in the comments section. Send us an email. We'll help as much as we can. And as usual, subscribe. Turn on the notification. The money we get from the videos, we donate and match to Salvation. By the way, we should say this, or we should do it. No, we'll just say this. To date, we've received 4 checks from...
Really?
Yeah, 4 checks from YouTube, Google. And they total approximately $2,000 plus or minus. So I topped it up, and so to date we've donated $5,000 to.
Good for you guys out there, really good.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
that's really, really helpful, and especially during the lockdown, I'm sure that the Salvation Army appreciated the donation. So thank you, and please continue to watch. If you don't like watching, just turn it on and just walk away and do whatever the heck it is that you do.
I'm sure that's what they do already.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you again. Bye-bye.